sir to start the presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be here. So I start here. So welcome to this talk. This is about research methodology and scientific writing. So definitely it's a first topic, and within a very short time, it's not possible to cover, but I'll try to give some points so that we can just start with. Definitely, uh, not all points are covered here, number one. Number two, not all opinions I mentioned here will be suitable for every researcher, because different domain has different kinds of variations. So we'll see that. But more or less, I'll try to give some basic information. So my name is MD in Bangladesh. It stands for Muhammad. I don't think any other countries in the world you'll find MD. Sometimes in America, especially, they remove my MD because they consider that this is MD means medical doctor or managing director or something. So they just mention Atiqur Rahman Ahad. In Japan, they call me as Ahad based on the family name or last name. So I'm from the University of Dhaka, and currently I'm at Osaka University for the last 2.5 years. I hope that I go back to my country soon. And this is the website. If you have any query about my research works, or if you have any questions, you can email me as well. So with that, I start. So this is my University of Dhaka. This is the Karjan halls. Basically, science and some of the engineering departments are co-located around this wonderful campus. And this looks very good, but inside is not good at all for the students, because this is an exam hall. So this is, three-storied, one of the largest exam halls in our university. And this is physics department, part of the physics department, the fisheries department, and others. And my department is over there. Here is my department, so next to this building. So I miss the campus definitely, and definitely with COVID, it's a different time, and we are lucky to have you all here. So I just mentioned that if you have any good work, good findings, which is competitive with other methods, then definitely you can publish in a journal or a good journal or good conference. If you research to study something in a new domain, then medium level journal is okay. If you make a system to solve a problem, then definitely again, medium journal is okay. Uh, mm, and survey paper or review paper on a challenging area, you can publish in top journals at the same time with mid-level or book chapter in Springer. So for these things, we must need extreme, relentless efforts and patience. Rome was not built in a day. A developed nation in terms of knowledge are not popped up suddenly. So India, and Bangladesh, for example, I know our people, we are the same people, just a border. And we have so many brilliant students all over the world, and they are doing excellent. But back home, we are not doing excellent. The main reason is that we don't give extreme, relentless efforts, and we don't have patience, because nobody is, appreciating good works that much usually, and not so much pressure, not so much competitions. So we need to make sure that we have this kind of things so that we can do excellent. And another point is that today's lecture, I cannot cover everything. So I put my website here, and my website, and then /notes. You will find some of the lectures in the YouTube under Rumaisa Umar Foundation channel. My two kids, Rumaisa and Umar. So over there, you will find research methodology in more details, paper writing, paper editing, research ethics, which is very, very important, especially for our countries, because we have, basically, unfortunately, due to our corrupt governance, more or less, people are corrupt as well, uh, mm, more or less, compared to elite countries. And it reflects in the research as well. If you look into IEEE, the world largest academic research body, IEEE, and if you look at their prohibited authors list, every year they have a prohibited author list. And if you look at the prohibited author list, you will be surprised to know that, there are, huge percentage of Indian authors. It means that they make mistakes, silly mistakes without understanding how to write. So what they do, they copy a lot. So from other sources, not that, they are cheating, but they don't know. I think this is my perception, because I deal with many young researchers all over my country, and I find that they have similar understanding, non-understanding problems. So what they do, they just copy from different sources to write their paper. So when you submit the paper, plagiarism checker checks every sentence, not about every sentence. They check only consecutive 5 words and they mark in color. So through this process, the number goes up, and then the list comes up that, your paper is plagiarized in a significant number. So you are banned to submit paper in IEEE for 3 years, 5 years, or forever. So these kind of things are happening. The main reason is that we do not know. So that's why research ethics is very important. So I hope that we can check. Selecting crap journals or good journals and conferences, it is also very important. Now we have competitions for promotions, different institutes, universities, and I know that many young teachers, without knowing, submit to crap journals, even though the work is relatively good to publish in a reasonable journal or standard journal. So we cannot cover this topic as well. Maybe in future we can cover this kind of things. But if you are willing to know, then you can visit this. So with that, research means we need to understand the problem we would like to study and to know the related area of knowledge. And for this purpose, we need to do literature review. Literature review means understanding what others did, or what are the different solutions for this problem and what is left for me to do. No work is finished. Some students, sometimes they ask me that, sir, I wanted to work on this domain, but I find that everything is done. It is never possible, and no field is finished. So you have always scope to work. Based on the existing work and literature review, you think and propose or develop an existing system, or you do new experiments, or in some cases you collect data in an organized and controlled manner so that you can go for a valid decisions. So this is very, very important. Based on the work, we need to analyze, do some kind of good analysis, just like we do for cricket team. Like when India, are out for, 36 runs, or India is, thrashing England in the second test. So whatever you do, positive or negative, lots of discussions. You also do brainstorming in the dining table, in your room, about the whole things. But do we do about our research? Because we have done the work for 3 months, or 3 months, almost nothing. For example, 1 year or 6 months or 2 years, 3 years. When you submit the work to a journal or conference, before submitting, do we have good analysis on where and why and how the work fits or it works? It is okay. Where it fails, because failure is important to know. Why? Because if you do not know the failing points or limitations of your work, then how can you progress the work? So when we do research, what we do, we try to learn from other works and from their mistakes. And then based on this, we try to improve our work. We try to propose something. So that's why it's very, very important that finding the constraints or limits of other works. Similarly, we need to find our constraints and limitations. And another point is that based on this, we need to go for genuine future scopes. So good research means, quality research means it should be based on the work of others. It doesn't mean that you just copy another work, okay? It can be duplicated. It means that your work is such clearly mentioned and done that anyone can implement it, do it. If your work is something undoable, it means that you didn't do anything. You are sorcerer or magician or something like that. And it should be generalizable to other settings. And definitely it should have some logical base, and it should be tied with theory. That's why in the university we study different courses. And I know that many students, including me when I was a student, we didn't like that course, maybe because of the teacher, because of its difficulties, or we feel that why the hell I need to learn this course because this is not important. But basically, when we make 4-year course, even though those are not important, but in the research domain, one course may be very much important you never realized. So that's why it is important to learn different kinds of courses. So study very well. Students, don't feel that this is bad or this is good. Only 4 years or 6 years you will study. And please mute your mic. I request the co-host to mute others if someone is coming. So yeah, thank you. So uh, mm, what is the bad research? Opposite of quality research is bad research. I mean, looking for something when it simply is not to be found, and copying another work, or plagiarizing, or self-plagiarizing, plagiarism, and falsifying data to prove a point. This is an important point. We know that even in nature, I mean, we got reports that topmost researchers, they falsified or I mean, wrongly interpret the data intentionally. So it must not be done. Okay. So whatever you have found, this is important. So do that. Regarding plagiarism, I just give you an example that IEEE plagiarism checker, they use the software. You see that this is about my book. Some experts, they commented. So when you make a comment, definitely you don't copy. They just read my book and then wrote something about my book. So you see that these red lines or these green lines means relationship with one document.
Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you so much. So I mute on this page, is it?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, okay. So this is about plagiarism. So IEEE plagiarism checker, it says that uh, mm, I mean, if you have consecutive few words which is similar to another document, then it marks like this color. I mean, different colors are with different numbers with the source. See that how strict the software is. Now, definitely 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%, no problem. IEEE says that if the similarity of my document with another document is 30%, it means that they make red mark. It doesn't mean that it is bad. Red means that look into the entire document, whether there are distributed marking or block by block marking. So if you have even 40% similarity, it doesn't mean that, I mean, your paper is has plagiarism. It means that when you wrote, some of the things are common with another, and it is possible. So 30%, 40% with references, it's not an issue. But the issue is that whether the core point of your work, or whether you copy paragraph by paragraph or sentence by sentence from another source, that is the most important thing. So that's why when you write, I recommend that you think of your own language. Hindi or India has so many wonderful different languages. So you think of your own language, translate it into your language, think, and then write in English of your own style. Okay, then you can overcome this kind of similarities as less as possible. But because some conferences or journals, they just check in the plagiarism software, and then if they find that there are similarities, they just straight away reject the paper without looking into details. So that's why it is important. Anyway, I move to the next point, that basic steps of research is problem identification. I need to know what the problem I would like to explore, reviewing information. There are two things. One is that, I mean, a literature review. Another point is that whatever I have done, we need to recheck, re-review the point. Don't just go one directional, okay? Sometimes you put some step and then you change the path. Do I mean, you need to propose something or do experiment or data collection, analysis, drawing conclusions and generalization. These are the 5 basic steps you can say. So number one and the most difficult part and most important part is defining the research study you would like to do. It's not so easy. Just like if we go to the hospital, doctors must do different kinds of, tests so that they can know that what is my situation, what is the problem. Then based on this, the medicine will come. So, or sometimes no medicine is required, okay? Many people can be very fit if their psyche or mental position is good. So identifying a state of the problem clearly, it is very important. And when we do work, the topic has some kind of keywords or terms or variables related to each other. So these are important to know. Based on this, we need to hypothesis on about the relationship of the terms or variables, and or sometimes in some cases we propose a solution of the problem, or in some cases we write important questions we would like to find. So we need literature review. So we'll come how to do literature review. This is very important. So reviewing information, which I mentioned, re-examine, re-review the purpose of the study and redefine the problem clearly, just like we do in our life or in cricket or sports or conflict. Okay, so but not always go one directional, because sometimes we planned initially in this way, but after some reading and lots of brainstorming, we find that maybe little bit movement is better. But don't jump to another topic quickly, because some young researchers, they feel that, oh, this is not my domain or this is not my field, and they jump to another domain. After that, they do another one, and by this time several months are gone. Or if you are working for 1 year research, then if you spend like 6 months only on finding what you want to do and studying, then basically you are losing your very, very important. Okay, so definitely it will vary from domain to domain, and then you do go for methodology of research. For experiments, we need data. So we need to collect or produce data through experiments or survey. Uh, mm, it is best to have real life data, but sometimes, especially in some research areas, we cannot have real life data. It's very difficult to get or within a short time. So we simulate or make artificial data, or we change the real life data to make it more difficult. And definitely any work you do, like, extensive and diverse range of data is very important. For example, if you work on human face recognition, so we know that now human face recognition is very well established method, but still, if you are far, if you have inclined faces, or if you have less light or not clear images, something like this, or suddenly I have huge beard or sunglasses, and now using mask, for example, it's very difficult to find people. Even like emotion, to understand that I make a joke and you don't understand, because I cannot, I can understand that whether you are happy or not because you have mask. So it's very difficult. So then the challenge comes. So now the point is that if you want to do research on mask face, do you want to do on 100 image? The point is that already face recognition research as millions of face images are used. So on that case, if I use 100 image or 200 image, definitely it's no way comparable with the state of the art or good research work already have done. So that's why it is important that we try to do extensive and diverse ranges of data as much as possible. But if we do not get real lab data, we need to go for artificial or simulated data. For example, we know that walking pattern means how we walk. Video-based gait walking pattern, it is called gait recognition. It is very well established research domain in computer vision for the last 20 years, especially after GPU and deep learning. It has boomed again. The point is that what we have full body data, but we don't have occlusion. We don't have multi-persons. We don't have large data with occlusions. So, or other problems. So what to do? If we do not have data, then create artificially. So what we did in one of our work, just to give an example, that with normal data, we partially occluded different parts. So it becomes occlusion. So this can be a starting point, because if I want to say that 10,000 people, their walking pattern with occlusions, like some car or some tree or some buildings or tables, I cannot see partial body. It is not possible to make in a day or in a month or even a year for 10,000 or 20,000 people data. But you can do it if you have 10,000, 20,000 people, and yes, we have, then make it artificially. And of course, if you start making new data, which is very good. Some people say that, oh, I can make data from a YouTube video, or I can make data like I use my camera, people are crossing in front of my door every day. No, you cannot, because you need privacy, you need permissions and approval of human subjects, so many other things. So these are difficult things. Without that, we cannot make data randomly. Of course, you can use YouTube data. Another point that, okay, so we mentioned that analyze, explain, and interpret. We need to discuss, generalize, find good points and bad points of my work. Remember, if a research paper you submit somewhere and there is only good points, no bad points, reviewers may find that this paper is not good because they don't know their limitations. A good human being always know the good points I have and the bad points I have. If I do not know, it means that I have some limitations. So paper has something like that. So that's why it is important that you also put bad points. A researcher is not like Ghatak, not a matchmaker, okay, shadi.com. It's not like that. So, paper should have some negative points, but okay, don't put too much negative points in the research paper. Otherwise, the paper will be rejected at the same time. So make sure that you make it very intuitively and smartly. Find future scopes based on the negative points so that next generation researchers, when they will read your paper, they can find some guidelines and go from that. Finally, when you write a paper, we need to conclude properly. When we finish a research, we need to conclude it properly. And we write down as a thesis or book format. We submit to a journal or transaction. We submit to a conference or workshop at proceedings. In some research domain, in computer science, EEE, usually our conference papers in IEEE or SCM are full papers, like double column. I mean, if I consider single column, like it becomes minimum 8 to 10, 15, 20 pages. But in some domain, they have extended abstract of the works, like you submit in 2 pages or only abstract like few hundred words. And then you submit, you go there, you present the paper in front of the audience and make, learning and so on. So that's why it is important that wherever you submit, make sure that you are submitting properly. And don't undermine one domain to another, because different domain, different topics, the perspectives are different. Another point is that in computer science and engineering, usually we say that journal paper or transaction paper and so on. But in some other domains, they mention it as article. How many articles you have? So when I first time heard that, I said, what is the meaning of article? Okay. So then they said that journal. I'm talking about long before. So just if there is a new researcher, then don't confuse on this point, the journal or transactions or article, the same thing. Now for engineering researchers especially, and science, I think everybody should use LaTeX. LaTeX is very free. You just install a program, then use an editor and just learn within few minutes. You can do it very easily. What's the benefit of LaTeX? That if you write in LaTeX, the formatting is excellent, and you don't need to worry about referencing page settings and other things. Of course, MS Word you can do it, but you need to know a lot at the same time. Now I give you one example regarding paper writing. That Nobel Prize winner on economics sciences in 2017, I was listening his talk, and Richard said that in the interest of young scientists, and which is, I think, so consider that young scientist means all Indians and Bangladeshis and others, because we are learning. So in terms, not in terms of age, in terms of research experiences, we are mostly young, except a very few cases. He said that a lot of young scientists don't pay any attention, you see, A Nobel laureate is saying that many young scientists don't pay any attention to the writing. I don't mean writing a novel. When you do research, what is the end product? He said, the end product is something written, and until you have written it down, you haven't done anything. So even a Nobel laureate feels that, I mean, writing needs lots of attention. I just give you that several months ago, I was in a workshop on, I mean, research, project writing and research thinking and this kind of things in Kyoto University. And the, I mean, trainer is very, very experienced, and she worked with Nobel laureate as well, and so on. So she said that researchers, when they do research, I mean, very much crazy about research, but when they submit the research, I mean, findings in the with the audience, they do not give attention. They work on the last night and do something very quickly and present something. She said that engage your Rajneesh Sharma, please mute yourself. So,
Sir, please mute all, sir. There is a lot of disturbance.
I don't have a scope now. Maybe when I made it. So anyway, so what she said that engage you 20% or even 25% of the total time of your project. Like if the project is for 1 year, then engage for 25 or 20% of your time on project report writing and presentation and everything. So it means that whatever you have done, it should be written very carefully, very logically, and you must pay huge attention to the writing. So that's why it is very important. So I just mentioned this. So I mean, with that, I go to the literature review part. Literature review means reading the works of others before starting your own research work. So this is very important, that sometimes we do research, but we do not know what has been done so far. So we need to learn from the past researchers or past works to build the future. So this is important. Otherwise, you may do something which is not needed. You may have done something which is, I mean, very much a repetition of existing many works. So that's why it is important that you know the existing work very well. Again, I'm saying that some researchers, especially young researchers, they like to download papers and papers and papers. And nowadays we have so many sources and online YouTube lectures as well. We try to spend so much time only on reading, on the related work, on literature review, instead of learning, I mean, the methods and doing the work. So it is important. So now don't give too much time. This is also important. I mean, literature review, you need some time, but at the same time, you prepare yourself for the work. Define your idea as in general terms. For example, you can get knowledge from different periodicals or newspapers or e-magazines like IEEE Spectrum for IEEE for computer scientists or electronics and electrical engineers. ACM, for example, say it's a traffic accident problem. Then search through the secondary sources. Secondary sources means if you get a good book on that specific subject or review or survey papers, remember, there are thousands or more, very much, I should say, very stupid review or survey papers by non-experts in fake journals or poor journals or very weak conferences. And if you read those, basically, you do not get any insight from those. A good review or good survey paper means basically from genuine expert groups. Definitely there are some students, PhD student maybe, or master student, I don't know, but at least one or two of them are genuinely good at that topic. Then they write 30, 20, 30, 40 pages survey papers based on the state of the arts, I mean, latest works, and they give some kind of insights. They don't report the topics that, oh, X did this, Y did this. they give some kind of insightful discussions and future research points and ideas. So if you find from good service from top journals, then you can learn something. And after that, you focus on few, 2, 3, 4, 5 genuine good journals or very high quality conference papers or books to see the original work or experience, and then you move further. So remember, whatever you have to do, it should be based on your time and ability. Of course, I say that human ability is enormous, and we are excellent in terms of ability, because I found that even my student who has very poor CGPA, always insincere, but when he or she was determined to do good and started to work hard, then they did excellent. So there are, I mean, thousands of examples like this. So never feel that if your CGPA is weak, forget about the CGPA. Just move on. Remember that if your knife is not sharp, it is rusty, you need more time to polish it so that it becomes, I mean, sharp as well. So our brain is like that. So always give time. Then compile a list of keywords, do brainstorming. You need to discuss the research problem with specialists or colleagues, collect and read better papers and books. Wikipedia is not a source, but for many people, Wikipedia has some basic guidelines, and at the bottom of the Wikipedia, you can find some of the references you can go through. We are not English speaking people. So, I mean, we can speak English, but we don't know. Whenever we say something, verbose is very common. Like we try to explain with many words instead of single word. Sometimes when you read a paper, we do not understand the meaning of the word, or we know the meaning, but maybe here the meaning is different. Go to the freediction.com or other website, okay? Then you will find that, I mean, different meanings in different domains. Like one word, maybe it has a meaning in medical science, in physics, another meaning, in economics, another meaning, something like that. Most of the journals of research proceedings are not open source. So one professor asked me at the beginning that how to handle if I don't have papers. So luckily I have this answer here. So pay or subscribe to download, it's not possible. And many open source journals are basically not good quality. This is, we must know. I mean, a journal, I mean, open source, usually for money, they accept more papers and so on. So, but still we can get something. So if you do not get a paper, Google search the titles or topics. If you don't find the PDF, at least read the abstract. Read it. If you, after reading it, if you feel that you need the paper, then search again with the title in different way. Hopefully you will get it. Even if you don't, what I do, email the authors. Need your paper, write the paper title. So then when you email, usually, I mean, the author will, I mean, reply to you. So this is common thing. There are some websites, of course, you know that. Write to organization or institution that may have an interest in the research problem. So this is important if we want to contact experts. I get lots of, I mean, knocking from India. So it means that India is, Indians are getting more crazy for research because they are not only exploring me, I am sure that they knock many others. So it means that they are trying to find more scopes, more collaborations, more solutions. So this is important. Don't feel down that you are weak. You are weak because you did not explore. When we explore more, we can get more opportunities. Yes, most of the cases I cannot reply. Yes, most of the cases, most of the professors will not reply, but somebody will reply. So keep trying. But of course, when we do, we need to be more focused. Don't just say that, oh, I don't understand, can you explain it to me? It will not work. Okay, you need to be more specific that I read your paper, this part is not clear to me, if you kindly give me some insight or give me some time, then we can discuss. And nowadays Zoom and other, Skype was before, now Skype is getting dead, I think, because people are using Zoom so much, or other modalities. So Skype as well. So from the survey of primary sources, contact any related researchers to help you. Engage in collaboration, researches, discussions with experts. Not difficult if you try positively and smartly. And find experts in many universities in your country. There is, nothing to worry about. Based on this, write your proposal. Limit the problem area. Plan as per time and capacity. Okay. And papers often suggest some recommendations on future researcher, which I mentioned earlier, that you must write future research work points in your paper so that another researchers can get some guidelines from your point. Similarly, you will find some points from other papers, but if you read bad papers, then you cannot find good guidelines. That's why you need good research papers to read, and read their discussions, analysis, and conclusions first, and always feel that we can do excellent. Sometimes it needs time more, but we can do excellent, of course. And we need to explore. Another point is that define the problem. Definition means what the researchers knows exactly what you are looking for. And remember the goal and target always. Don't jump from one topic to another, then you will lose your time. Of course, if you find at some point that it is impossible after some brainstorming and discussion, then it is better to think differently. But always you need brainstorming and learn from shortcomings and limitations of other methods. Try an approach in another perspective. For example, face recognition is done. What about, but we know at the same time that in America, one black guy, he sued because he was caught from face recognition method that he's the criminal, but actually it was wrong. So, and then he was, released, but he filed a case. So I read it from CNN, I guess. So you see that, even for black people, the face recognition is not good. And it is well known that face recognition methods are done on majority white people, face data sets. So automatically your method is very much successful on one set of data, but other domain not. So why don't you make huge Indian face related data set? Then, even though there are face recognition methods very good, but maybe huge Indian dominated different kinds of faces, if we make a data set, then if you run on top 10 methods on your data set, that work will be very important for the researchers to know that existing top 10 methods are not good or bad, whatever. This is a one. So you can try in different things, different perspective, different viewpoint as well. Methodology that fits well, it is important. We need strong mathematics to understand, especially in science and engineering fields. If your math is weak, sharpen it as much as possible, mathematics and statistics especially. So need interactions. We can do interactions with different people through conferences or research meetings, workshops and courses. Luckily, we have online so many courses and workshops and conferences, and many of these are free. But I find that, I attended few conferences. I gave some keynotes in different conferences in India and in many conferences in Bangladesh. I find that young researchers are not so much crazy to attend those things. They just present their papers and go away, maybe watching TV, or I don't know what the hell they are doing. But in a conference, if there are 100 participants, one keynote session, there should be few hundred people, their friends and others, because to attend online especially, it's free. But we don't see that much crazy on learning. So we feel that doing something small one and we are happy. We shouldn't be happy, okay? Because if we love our country, if we love our people, and if we say that this is our important issue to dominate and not to be dominated by others, then do research so that you do not need to dependent on other countries or other nationalities and so on. So this is the power of research. And that's why, we become very much powerful and we need to go to America and people don't return, for example. So this is important that we try, for our developing countries. Don't miss chances to attend lectures, talks all over the country, whatever domain. In the upper level, many researches are related. Like if you do image processing, so definitely you're a computer scientist or electrical engineers, but you need biological knowledge because if you are working on biological image processing, so you need biology, sometimes you need sensors, programming, and even mechanical engineering and other things because you are dealing with microscopes or maybe you are polishing something and so on. So you need to do lots of discussions with colleagues and interested members. This is important. Be part of societies like IEEE or ACM, Optical Society of America, or student branches on other online forums, and convert your adda, which is Bangla word. I don't know whether there is an Indian one, Hindi one, because Indian one is wrong. India has so many different languages. So maybe Hindi, adda, I don't know. It means gossiping. So convert your gossip time into academic brainstorming sessions among your peers. This will make you better. And try to change the world by solving some core problems. Need more in-depth study. And when we do, we need to split the work into smaller, manageable research. Just like in cricket, they go for session by session. And when it is very tough, they go for over by over. So this is important. And budget is a problem because we are, poor countries, our government still not much crazy about research and funding like US or European countries or Japan or Korea. So now we can ask our parents or rich relatives or alumni to fund us and push the university to give more funding. So this is very important. And sometimes if you have money, engage your money and best efforts. Money is not the only problem. Not enough best efforts is the main problem I find. When you select a problem, we need to know our capabilities and limitations because, for example, if you are not great in mathematics, so don't try on that domain suddenly. You do something, make the ability, and then try to improve your capacity. Definitely you need a supervisor. I know that sometimes, especially if someone has very weak CGPA or you graduated from the school or university, you do not find a supervisor, but at least find someone in the planning phase so that your time is, going to be better. It's not like you do something and it's bad. When we do, try to do some uniqueness, like no repetitions of other works. Try to change or modify or upgrade or do different kinds of experiment little by little, at least. Don't just copy and paste of another work. When we evaluate a problem, remember, is it feasible, worthy, significant, researchable? Is it too large? This is important because your time is important. Like 1 year, how much you can do, writing and thinking and so on. Availability of data, setup, and resources. Do you have, like if you do not have high computing facilities like GPUs and multiple GPUs, then definitely you cannot go for, deep learning big models on large data set. So definitely you need to focus on other domain like computer vision or image processing. You have large data set. But if you move from large data set, from image domain, you can go from skeleton points. Skeleton means body joint points. Or you can move to sensor-based data where you just have very lightweight data. So this way you can consider. If your knowledge is very weak at this moment on mathematics, start planning on math, but you can go for another thing. What is it? Go for application side, develop something, and so on. So you can definitely, if you work very hard. So that's why we need to work hard. Another point is that, like, we need to consult with experts if we have a bit longer work, because sometimes we want to solve a problem, but we do not consult with the related experts. Like if I work on healthcare, like one of my works now is on rehabilitation hospital stroke patients. Now, if I want to work on a stroke patient and make my students and team members that, oh, you act like a stroke patient and do like this, not work. We need to consult with the doctors, we are working with hospitals. And then based on these, we know what are the exact problems and how to solve these problems, how the doctors are handling it. And we have to visit the hospital. So we visited the hospitals a good number of times. We collected data and check, and through this process. So that's why important that we consult with related experts, and sometimes non-experts are important. Like for example, patients, we need to discuss with them to know a different perspective. And that's why in research, sometimes we need the social scientists, we need business partners, so that our work can have more bigger impact. These are the few things I already mentioned in different ways. To solve the problems, you attempt to link what is known and what is unknown, and suggest a possible reason, or to propose a solution, and then try to prove it experimentally as well as theoretically. Sometimes we cannot do theoretical proof, because we don't have that much rigorous knowledge, or we do not give enough time, because nowadays publication, very quick. So it's a pressure, peer pressure as well. So that's why sometimes we just do some experiments and go for publishing. Anyway, so whatever we do, we need to make sure that we don't repeat just the basic things, very small things like line follower robot, for example. I find that many young researchers, they try line follower robot and do something with that, but try to learn control engineering, try to learn electronics and good programming, and go for something different which has not been done. So, and when we do something, we need to analyze in depth, which I mentioned at the beginning, considering where it works and why it fails and why. We need to find the reasons. Sometimes we do not know why, okay? But in the discussion part, you can give some kind of clue, because you did the work, so you know better than other person. So you can say that maybe this is the reason. But of course, but if you know a good reason, then you can refer some standard journal or paper that that paper they did something similar, and we did, and we find similar results. So there is a relationship we think. So that's why it is important that you are very concrete on your findings and conclusions. You need mathematical or statistical analysis or tools or investigation. Compare results with other state-of-the-art works. This is very challenging, because from undergraduate or master's level work, or for example, weak work, it is very difficult to compare the result with the top results. So we need, on that case, at least to discuss theoretical point of view. And data visualization tools are important as well. So we need to go for that. Few points for young researchers, because this is the ending of the research part. I'll mention few things about the paper writing. So when you select a topic where you can work. Sometimes data set is needed. If you need a data set, go for proper ethical clearance. It is important. Healthcare applications are globally very important, especially due to COVID. We cannot go to the hospital. We should not go to the hospital unless it is very serious, because we are worried about COVID. So can we do remote monitoring, video-based monitoring, sensor-based different kinds of applications, and so on. So these are very, very important. Don't jump easily on products until you profoundly do experimentations and satisfied with the results. Hot topics like AI, deep learning, machine learning, robotics, blockchain, IoT, etc. Don't jump without knowledge, because you don't know how difficult it is or how easy it is. Okay, so learn something, and based on knowledge, you go into deeper. Knowledge-based efforts is very important, not on whimsical to make a quick decision. It's important for the researchers, teachers, funding authorities, and policymakers. Unfortunately, developing countries' policymakers are not that much oriented or connected with the researchers, so that's why they don't know what to do. And many fundings authorities through government are, wastage in one sense. Research is not like a first sight love, okay? It's not like your movie, Shah Rukh Khan and others. So learn as much as you can. And for any work, need a midterm and long-term knowledge-based realistic plan so that you can progress. Especially here, our teachers who are attending here, I mean, good number of teachers I find, especially from their names, because they wrote DR doctor. So I assume that they are not hospital doctor or medical doctor. So it means that if we cannot guide our students, and if we do the repetitions of simple work from one batch to another, then we can progress. So what we need to do, if I have a student, a new work, the student will work, and then I will explain the next batch with that work with 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, teach a new student so that the new student can progress from the previous work. And this way it can be, I mean, improved. So that's why it is important. Don't just go for publications only, and poor publications has no meaning. Remember that, I mean, if you have 1,000 crap papers, it has no meaning. I mean, but if you have a good paper, this is very, very useful. Another point is that many of you will try for foreign studies, GRE, TOEFL, or America, or another country. But when your CV has a crap journals, I know that many Indian authors and some Bangladeshi authors, they publish in many crap journals. Like, I mean, you submit, they publish within a very short time, and it's very, very bad. So when I find a CV and the CV has 3 or 4 crap papers, so what will be in my mind? I will think that the student or the teacher or the researcher has no idea what is the standard. You may not have a paper. This is one way is better than rubbish journals or rubbish conferences. Of course, you can publish in standard journals or standard conferences from the standard societies, not fake societies or business-oriented societies. And you can judge by looking at their papers, that the quality of the papers they are publishing and what kind of papers they are, I mean, promoting. So this is very important. So don't run for publications only. One is excellent if it is good. 1,000 is rubbish if, I mean, 1,000 is not good. So this is very important. Think and find a solution, even if it produces bad results. Try for a new knowledge. This is important, especially for young researchers, because maybe you are thinking something different. Why don't you try? Because new findings, new things will come when we think differently. Most of the cases it will fail, but sometimes it will give excellent results. So, I mean, here, of course, supervisors has responsibilities that you allow the student to think differently. And of course, I mean, allow him or her to graduate. Another point is that must need to know what are the best works so far, and must work the hardest. I mean, which I mention again and again. Spend money too for research from home, university, industry, or government. Spend for education and research. And I know that similar to Bangladesh, Indian marriage ceremony and parties are huge expensive. Use that money. Tell your papa or mama that give some part of that money of my marriage ceremony. I will engage that for my research, for my knowledge. That would be more and better investment. Now let's move to the, I mean, go to the paper writing and editing part. I will try to quickly finish it because it is very difficult to cover paper writing and editing within a short time. So, and I learned from many kicks from different publishers, and initially I hated those, but now I feel that, I mean, they helped me to make it better. So again, I repeated those who are late, that Richard, Nobel Prize winner, he said that young scientists don't pay any attention. He said a lot of young scientists don't pay any attention to the writing. And when you do research, the end product is something written, and until you have written it down, you haven't done anything. Who said? A Nobel Prize winner. So he feels that writing is very, very important. And yes, indeed. And as we are not used to that much, many cases, so our writing, even if we tried for writing for 20 years, still we struggle. And I know that many of you have received different journals that professional editor, professional English writer, and so on. So it means that when you submit it, you did not give enough time to improve the paper. So that's why before you submit, it's just like, I mean, I'm in your restaurant. For example, each of you have your own restaurant and you are serving food. I am inside, you are serving me food. I like food very much. So the food you served, by looking at, I find that it's not well served. It's not well, cooked or well designed, or serving is not good. So definitely I will have negative mind at the beginning. So when you submit a paper, try to write it as best as possible, polish it as many times as possible. So that's why it is important. So peer review, some of you may not know, peer review means that reviewers will judge the paper. In some cases, we call it double-blind submission. It means that the paper shouldn't have any author's information, no acknowledgement in the manuscript, no information on the reviewers as well. And some journals or conferences, if they write double-blind submission, and if you put author's information without further review, it is rejected. Desk reject instantly because you have informed your identity. So that's why it is, important. Okay, so another point is that single blind. So single blind means author's information are there, but you do not know the reviewer's information. Your paper is direct accept is extremely rare. So don't hope that your paper will be accepted. If someone accepts your paper directly, you may feel that the forum is not so good. If you are lucky, minor revision, it means that almost 100% the paper will be accepted. Few editions you need to do. Major revision means after doing the major revision, you can still get kicked by the reviewers or editors. Okay, so we always hope and pray that our papers get accepted, but it will never happen. So if your paper is rejected, don't be dejected. Okay, rejection is part of life. It's not from sweetheart that rejected you. Okay, and you will just sing a song just like movie actor or actress does. Now, regarding the title, no fancy words. No, don't write noble work or robust work or best work. Make it a meaningful, not too long title. And in the IEEE transactions, if you look that, they mentioned that some of the words not to be capitalized and so on. Summarize points like authors or affiliations. No PhD, like sometimes and in the author section, we write PhD, student, professor, doctor. Shouldn't do that. I mean, you must not do that. This is important. Abstract, usually 150 words or 200 words. See the template, because nowadays, normally abstracts are in one paragraph, but in some journals, they have multiple points to cover in the abstract. So their template is different. So make sure how they arrange. Keywords, 4 or 5 keywords are mentioned in different journals or conferences. Introduction. In the introduction, you need to put background outline, overview of the work, structure as per sections, like in section 1, in section 2, we did this, in section 3, we did this. Finally, we conclude the paper in section 4 or 5. Related work or literature review from the recent top works. It is very important. I will cover everything in details in the later part, but I'm saying that it is in a summarized manner that related work is important, because if your paper doesn't have good amount of related work and recent good journals or conferences, the reviewer will consider that you do not know your domain, you do not know your area. So go to the head. Then motivation or justification of the work is needed. So you need to justify your work. So based on the related work. So if you say that your research work has, your paper is excellent or good, but at the same time, there are many other papers who did better than you, then definitely it's not good. So you smartly mention your motivation or justification of the work. Then you propose your methodology, approach or strategy, and go for experimental setup or results, analysis of results, in-depth discussion. Remember, when you write experimental setup or setup, it's not like in the high school or in the college, how you did for your biology or chemistry or physics lab. Okay, it's a different thing. I mean, unless it is important, do not need to write too much on experimental setup, but results and analysis of the results, in-depth discussions are very, very important. In-depth analysis is important regarding shortcomings and good points. Why the result is good, why the result is bad. These are important points for a research, for a paper. Conclusions. I found many cases that conclusions are almost the copy of the abstract summary of the work. No, you rewrite the abstract in what rewrite the conclusion. So one option is that if you are multiple authors, engage someone else to write the conclusions, because if the same author writes, it may happen that you follow exactly the style of abstract. So conclusions will not be the copy of the abstract, and it should be a bit bigger, more analysis on the results, and of course, one or two future works based on the analysis and your shortcomings. Acknowledgement. I found a good number of papers. Students thanked their supervisor, and supervisor is not in the author list because they think that supervisor did nothing. Okay, he just, scolded us and always said that you did nothing and so on. So they forget about the supervisors. Only in the acknowledgement. No, supervisor is the #1 person without whom you must not submit. Without his approval, you must need the approval of your supervisor before submission. This is very much important. References as per the template. The different journal or conferences have different styles of referencing. Follow that reference style before you submit. So when you submit, even if your work is not strong, but if your paper is very well written, very methodologically presented, then there is a good chance that a paper will be considered by the reviewers. So when you consider reference, pick recent papers, pick from top journals and conferences. Now the point is that your result is not comparable with top results. So how can you add top journals or conferences? You can do it in the related work. You can mention it when you mention applications or some methods and so on. So this is very important. Regarding this point, like contributions or originality, many cases we cannot understand from the abstract that whether the work is original, what is the main contributions of the work. So if your work has nothing, make it very clear, no ambiguity, okay? So no fancy words like robust, noble, unless a rigorous work has been done. Be moral and honest, no plagiarism. Don't mention another person's work as your work. Don't mention another person's idea as your idea or as your method. If you do that, there will be someone who can understand and kick your work. So refer properly. Do not just copy and paste. Rephrase anything and provide reference. Avoid self-plagiarism. Do not copy and edit a sentence, which I mentioned earlier. Read in English from another paper, think on your own language, and write of your own in English. So in that way, you can write in a better way to reduce the plagiarism, which I mentioned earlier. So this is I mentioned. So here, area of the work, state the problem, indication of the methodology, main findings as 1 or 2 sentences, and write the main conclusions. These are the few core points should be in the abstract. Usually no reference, no repetition of abstract in introduction or conclusions, and make sure that you do not write in this thesis, in this report, in this project. We write in this paper. So this is very important. If I find a paper that's in this thesis or report or project, definitely I will feel that it's written by a student, converted from the thesis report or project into a paper, and they did not check it carefully. So this can be good enough for a reviewer to reject the paper in most of the cases. And people do like that. I'm saying because I'm part of different conferences, and I have been part of a few conferences for a longer period, more than 10 years. And over a decade, I found that several thousand papers I check per year in total. Many cases we find, especially from developing countries. So these issues should not be in the paper. So next point is that in the introduction, state the research area or importance of this research. It is important. Focus on the paper of this paper. Summary of existing work. Indicate a gap of existing works. Raise some questions. Make a story. Okay, a paper should have a story type so that, I mean, someone can read and can follow the works. So make sure that your points are clustered in proper group by group and sequential. And outline your purpose of this research, mention your approach and little of the findings in the introduction. And last paragraph should be like this: the paper is organized as follows: section 1, section 2, section 3, and so on. In the literature, review, make sure that you mainly focus on recent work from top journals or top conferences. Don't just mention other works. Make a storytelling. Okay, I mean, this is important. And another point is that find motivations from these works to fill a gap by your work. So you are mentioning other works, not just mentioning one by one, mentioning in such a manner that they did something, but still there is a gap. They didn't do it, or they have failed to do that. So who will do it? This is me. This way you can mention in the literature review. So sometimes if the paper is short, like 4 pages or 6 pages or so on, you do not need to write related work or literature review or motivation or background separately. You can write within the introduction. Okay, and then in many cases, a flowchart or flow diagram or sequential blocks are important of your methodology so that one can clearly understand by looking at this. No textbook materials in the paper, because if your paper has, I mean, materials which is very well known or already available in many books, so why the hell you need to put in the paper? You just give the references and that is good enough. Equations are important, especially in science and engineering. If a paper has no equations, of course, I'm not mentioning biological science or chemistry. So equations are important. Mention, but when you put an equation, mention and explain all the variables in each equation. You wrote an equation, but there is no explanation and the variables are meaningless, or there is no explanations or clarity, then it is not good. Clearly highlight the contribution and then go for your work. In the result, data visualize smartly, explain properly. Visibility of the graph or image, it is important that sometimes your graph or images are not clear. So make sure that it is high quality image and high resolution so that it is clearly visible. Don't just describe the graph, explain the graph, because I can see that the graph is going this way, but explain why it's going up, why it's going down, and so on. Okay, compare with the state of the art methods. So this is important. If it is not possible by experiment, because sometimes we cannot have enough experimental setup to compare with the best results, or my method is not so good, how can I compare with the best results? Okay, so at least try to discuss logically, give some kind of information so that reviewer can find that at least you know where you work. You know that your work is not best, but still you can give some kind of discussion. Remember, same things as tables or graphs, no need. Some people, they put table and then the table information is converted into graph. Why you give both in the same place? No need. Okay, if I can see the table, I can understand the graph, and vice versa. Of course, if there is needed, you can understand, but usually common sense say that you don't need the both. Don't give many tables or graphs, concise them, merge together. Don't hide too much information. In research, just like matchmaking in life, shadi.com for example, what we do, we hide everything about the, I mean, both sides, okay? In research paper, we also hide many things, but don't hide everything. Hide smartly. Hide means, I mean, you don't mention all the limitations of your paper, but mention one or two good points, which is, I mean, good for your paper to understand. Results, it is very important. Discussion is very, very necessary. So sometimes in short papers, we put discussion part at the end of results. But if you have, ability to write more or space, then discussion is very, very important. In the discussion, review your findings. For example, the findings of this work clearly demonstrate or show that or prove that. Now, in the introduction, I mentioned that you have to set some goals, and your method is trying to solve those goals, right? So you discuss those goals that you mentioned, that there are two goals in the introduction section. In this discussion or result analysis part, I mean, how far you achieved, this is important. So the paper has a sequence of knowledge. Analyze as much as possible good or bad points. Refer other papers to support your claim or failure, because sometimes you have failure, but you can refer other papers and mention that, your findings are logical or so. Mention the impacts of your results and, of course, future work plan. Need to analyze in depth, which I mentioned again and again, that why it works well, why fails, boundaries, and you need some experimental or theoretical proofs, and you can mention some future works and so on. Mathematical statistical analysis is important, state of the art, which I mentioned, data visualization. Now I mention again that no repetition of abstract in the conclusions. Summary of the entire work, you can have 2 or 3 paragraphs. Last 2-3 sentences are usually future work plans, usually no reference, and of course no section number for future work. Usually we write the future work under the conclusion section. Acknowledgement, reference, no section number unless the template has. Now another point most of the young researchers may not know, unless you submit to top journals, they say that competing interest. So in the paper, or when you submit the paper, you need to mention that authors declare that they have no competing interest. Always you have to declare. It means that this is from nature. Nature said that, you have to declare this one, that no financial or non-financial interest in relations to the work described. Like you are working on a medicine. So your research is on medicine, but you are working with, for example, that pharmaceutical company, or you are getting funded by them, or your wife or sweetheart is working there as a chief or something. So there is a relationship which may have some kind of biasness or wrong information. So it is important to mention if you have anything, okay? So that there is no potential influence of cheating or misjudgment and so on. Another important part is that many journals, you need to mention that authors' contributions. I mentioned before that supervisors, without approval, written approval, you should not submit to anywhere, because if there is any cheating issues or any complaint, the corresponding author and the supervisor, and they will be also responsible. Otherwise, it will be problematic. Now, if there are 2 authors, you write. If there are multiple authors and there are 2 authors who worked equally, 2 or 3, usually nowadays, as a footnote, they write both authors equally contributed for the proposal on writing, or equally contributed. You can mention which author did what, like for example, conceptualization of the work, methodology, formal analysis, writing the original draft, writing, review and editing, supervision, and so on. And remember that before you submit, all authors have read and agreed to the published version of the paper, and then you submit. Now, what you need to do, based on what I have said, you can go for self-assignment. What is the meaning of self-assignment? You find 5 papers related to your work or interest, select one from topmost journals and one from poor, rubbish, fake journal or conference, and 2-3 others are from average. you read, review, and reject. And reject them, so that when you reject, you need to find the genuine rationality to reject a paper. So on that case, you can find many mistakes. If you know another person's mistakes, then hopefully you will not make the same mistake in your work. So this is very important as well. So be a reviewer and review other papers so that you can learn. So with that, I repeat some of the points for young researchers. Select a topic where you can work. If you need, introduce an excellent data set with proper ethical clearance. Health clear applications are important. Don't jump on products until you do lots of experiments and satisfied with the results. Research is not whimsical. You need knowledge-based efforts and midterm and long-term realistic plans. Don't keep doing easy things always. Don't run for publications only. Think and find a solution, even if it is giving you bad results. I mean, of course, students cannot do this by themselves, because supervisor will say that, oh, you will not graduate. Okay, so that's why I mean, supervisors should encourage sometimes. At least I encourage my students to try something. I mean, even if it is not giving a good result, a publishable work, but maybe it will give a new thinking. Or you never know, sometimes a young mind will produce something so extraordinary idea, then it can be published in topmost journals. So that's why, I mean, encouraging young minds to think and explore differently, it is important. We must work hard. We must need to know what are the best works so far, and spend money. I mean, for education and research, which is very important, and do the best, have patience. So with that, I just mentioned another Nobel Prize winner. She got her prize on chemistry in just 2 years back. She said, she was asked what to do after her Nobel Prize. I mean, you got the Nobel Prize, what will you do next? You will be surprised to her answer. She's, remember, she's working with chemistry, right? And she got the Nobel Prize on chemistry. She said that amazing things that we can do, we can use to move into the future. The combination with machine learning and artificial intelligence is a frontier that I am going to ride to the next level. Think about that. So I hope that there are many, I mean, many of you who are working on machine learning or AI or related field, that combination with machine learning, more or less, I mean, AI is a frontier that I am going to ride to the next level. So this is very, very important domain in different areas. And if we have data, we can explore much more. So with that, I welcome you to these conferences. I mean, 10th ICIEV, International Conference in Informatics, Electronics, and Vision with Imaging, Vision, and Pattern Recognition will be held in Japan, but of course, online and offline mode. In August after the Olympic this year. So you can visit and submit papers. And this, if any of you are working on human activity and behavior computing, which is my core research area, so we are forming and organize this conference in US and Japan last year, and this year it will be in Thailand. So you can visit my website or this website to get the information. Thanks a lot. Let's work the hardest with more positivity. And if you have any questions or comment, you can ask me, but I don't know how long we can continue. I found so many points or questions or comments. And you can subscribe and go for this website, ahadvisionlab.com/notes, and you will find, I mean, some of the comments. Thank you so much. So now I can handle some of the questions.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can interact with Professor.
I can see some of the raised hands, but there are many ups and downs. So because so many comments, so it's very difficult to cover. But I tell you that, I mean, regarding paper writing and paper editing and research ethics, I mean, you need to explore more. So we have so many comments, and thank you so much for your nice words, but I prefer that comments. Okay, raise hand. So I'd like to request Dr. Where is the name? Okay, raise hand and unraise. Anyway, anyone has any question?
They can unmute themselves and ask, sir.
Yeah.
Participants, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Good evening, Mr. Dr. Atur Ahmed.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yes, yes, please.
are you hearing me?
Yeah.
So regarding the, can you explain about the plagiarism during the graduation project? Students are, nowadays we are taking the online classes. So we are conducting the graduation project course also. So online, how to find the plagiarism and how to catch this plagiarism? So can you explain the details?
Oh, this is very tough and very difficult. I understand, but
Yeah.
I can go with the students in different way. Like, I mean, students, they are also facing lots of troubles in the developing worlds like Bangladesh and India. Many of them, they do not have even enough infrastructure, environment, or financial situation. So, and frustrated as well. So we cannot solve this issue when they go for, cheating in the exam from home. So, I mean, and we do not have many cases, plagiarism checker officially in different universities to check. So on that case, I recommend that we need to give more efforts to make questions which is more intuitive. I mean, they cannot find direct answers, but they need to explore, they need to think. Like you gave a question, not like typical questions we are used to do. This is our problem in India or Bangladesh. I mean, this kind of developing countries, that our education system, our question making systems are not basically memory-based system. So if I search a book, I can find the answer. So if we don't make like this in a different way, give some problem-solving issues, then they will try to introduce different way of problem solving, and teachers need more time to study on that case, and maybe that is better. So even before COVID, some universities in the world, even 15 to 20 years before, online submissions, online assessment in different universities, some courses are there. So they do, excuse me, like this. For example, when I was in Australia, I was surprised that it was an open book exam. So what I did, I took 3 or 4 books in the exam hall, and I prepared less for the exam, because I thought that everything I'll get in the book, so why the hell I need to study so much? I engaged my efforts to another exam, which is not open book. And after going to the exam, I found that not a single answer I can find in the book or from my knowledge. It means that if I understand something in a smarter way, I can, find a solution. And all those are design issues. I know that in some courses, it is very difficult to make those questions. So I don't have any answer. I hope that we just request the students that don't do it. Or during this time, this is like a war situation. So we forgive them. We tell them that to study. And another option is that you can go for lots of, direct interview type, or maybe assessment or presentation type, and through this way they can learn something different. Yeah. By the way, yeah, thank you. So I'm sorry, I'm not expert on this kind of thing. So, and moreover, in Japan, I'm in Japan, so it's at this moment. So I'm in one way, I'm lucky that I'm not facing this hardship in India and Bangladesh. Our teachers are having to manage the online teaching. So, yeah, thank you. Any other question? Or
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Sunita Chaurasia from IGDTOW. I have a question. Actually, if after research you are getting some negative results, or for example, accuracy is not improving, so in that case, what can be done?
This is very tough indeed because very good question. In fact, this is most of the young researchers are suffering for this point, that we do not have enough results to publish in a good forum, but the work is done and we cannot have enough time to progress further. So how to do? I feel like this way, that there is no clear answer, but one option is that we can search for some journals where, I mean, good journals or reasonable good or good publisher, because you see that Springer or Elsevier or even IEEE, they have new journals every year. So search new journal and see that whether that new journal is, I mean, accepting good paper, I mean, reasonable works or not. This is one point. So this is one viewpoint, because on that case you are publishing in a good under a good publisher, but in a new journal, so they do not demand for high quality papers. Because if I have a good quality papers, definitely I'll not publish in a new journal. But of course, that journal should be under a good publisher, not a fake or unknown publisher. Number two is that you can submit to IEEE conferences at least minimum, because there's a Scopus index. If it is okay, then to publish, and during the presentation you can hopefully learn from others about your work. So this is another point. Or third is that you continue the work with another student and engage the previous researcher or student, so that I mean, they can work collaboratively and the new student can progress little bit better. This is third option. Fourth option is that, I mean, you submit a paper with some other knowledge, or make the paper dimension not directly to, I mean, compared to the state of the art, but something different way. It depends on the domain, but it's very challenging, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah. Anyway, so I
Thank you,
got a,
sir. Thank you.
thank you so much. I got a question from Hina. The question is, which journal we should approach for our publication? This is very difficult one way, but I have a presentation in YouTube. You can visit my website and find that how to find good journals or crap journals. So there are some basic strategies. So I prefer not to publish in any journal of new publishers which are, I mean, trying and publishing anything they find. So if you go for a journal and you see the journal has, I mean, that journal has many related papers. So what you can do, you can search. I do even for top journals, I search on my topic, because not every topic is, is same. So for example, if I work on rehabilitation, stroke related work, I focus on a journal and I search on the journal to see the work. And if I find that that journal publishes some of the works related to my field and the works are still reasonable, then I can feel that, oh, my work can be submitted over there. So this is, I mean, one strategy. And another option is that you know the top publishers globally. And I mean, if you consider journal, then you can go for minimum Scopus indexing. So if you look into the Scopus index, they have thousands of journals on your domain, then select the journal. And some universities, they have their journals, and some of them are Scopus index or even have impact factor, genuine impact factor, not like fake impact factor. You know that sometimes you get email and email. Remember, a journal should not mail you every day to submit a paper. And if you have a conference paper published in a somewhere, they search the paper title and request you to submit the paper in a journal. When you find it, just spam it, okay? Because those are all fake. So that's why it is important. And young researchers, you will be in trouble if you have a fake journal or fake conference in your, I mean, CV. Because when you submit for, higher studies, and if I find that you have like this, then I may think, not me, I mean, anyone can consider that this is not good at all. So Another Mannat Kaur, he wrote, I hope that the pronounce is okay. Can you please tell the difference between a review article and a research paper? Research paper and review article, I think review article means you are more or less expert, or your group is expert on an area. And then you read related most of the good papers. Then you can summarize the methods, cluster them in different groups, mention their good points and bad points, and you can highlight some future research scopes. Based on this, basically you survey or review of existing research works on a very specific topic which is not available, and publish like 20-30 pages in-depth analysis of existing work with some recommendations. That is called review article, and usually done by expert. I request you all never to read any fake review article from fake journals, because I find many 3-4 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages review articles, and there is nothing to understand and learn. Never read those papers. This is number one. Number two, research paper. Research paper is that I try to solve a problem, or I try to improve a problem, or I try to existing method or system, I try with different data set to experiment it in different ways so that I can improve the work, okay, or I can find some new findings. So review article doesn't find any new finding, it just summarize, but from experts. Of course, not everyone, not all the authors in the review article are experts, because most of the works are basically done by young PhD student or master students or young teacher, okay, and experts look over and modify and comment, based on this they work. So this is the point I can mention.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
السلام عليكم دكتور أحد.
وعليكم السلام.
Thank you very much for this nice presentation. It's Dr. Hassan Hassan from Al-Brahimi University College in Oman. I have 2 questions for you. The first one, what is the difference from your experience between the index indicators, for example, between the Australian, the European, the Japanese, the American, the scopers, because every time they will come up with index. For example, in GCC countries, in Oman, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in universities, they are imposing on us first to publish in a Scopus index journals. Whereas in other countries, what do I feel? This is from my point of view, that any work, any paper can have value, should there to be published? This is the first question. The second one, now there is a trend, and this is about ethical or research ethics, that in India, in Bangladesh, in different parts of the world, you know, one researcher or one doctor or one PhD student, he will or she will publish more than 50 paper a year. I think this is a crap. This is against all the things that we have learned about ethics. What do I feel if we are now teaching online, and we have an administrative world, and we have a family world? It's hardly, if you would like to add a value related to the world of research, to publish more than 2 research papers. And for me, it's enough, as you have said.
Yeah. I give you some idea, because there is no clear answer, sir. So first of all, thank you very much for joining from Oman. I never visited there, so hopefully I'll be there and enjoy some good food. Number one, all over the world, people consider that Scopus index is the minimum requirement. Usually, Scopus index is the minimum requirement. So usually, all Springer book chapters, all good publishers, their journals, except very new journals, are yet to be Scopus index because it takes 2-3 years to get the approval. So this is another point. And another point is that some countries, like for example, Korea and China, not China, because China has, and Japan, for example, they have their own journals in their language. So many researchers, they publish their works in their Japanese journals instead of Scopus Index or other, good journals or so on. So it means that, it is not, they know that which journal is good or bad because their journals they respect a lot. But in our domain, our regions, we do not respect our journals because we don't make those journals in a quality one. Number one. Number two, impact factor is considered. We know that some fake journals, they write IF or impact factor. If you click, it is found that their impact factor is created by their own, and there is no definition. It's not like, SCI indexed journals and so on. So, and there are a few other schemes as well, but basically they consider like that. So, and if Oman or Middle Eastern countries or other countries, they go for strict any thing, it is very difficult to fight against. Like for example, in China, for computer science and engineering, they have their list. It is from the computer CCV, and Chinese Society of Computer Vision or something. They listed the conferences and journals with A, B, and C category. If you publish papers outside of those categories, most of the good universities do not give you PhD, do not give you promotion, because these are the minimum requirement. So it is very hard to see that list. From Australia, for example, one of my colleagues, he is now working in Australia, he said that they have computer science related some of the lists, and we must follow that list, otherwise they cannot submit the paper. So these kind of things are there. So it is very difficult and challenging as well sometimes. Now come to the 50 paper issues. It depends on domain. Some domain, it is very difficult to get a single paper in 3 years. Some areas, especially in simulation-based work or maybe very small works, it is possible to make many works. Now, point is that, you know it very well, that work has levels. Just MIT, Harvard, Stanford has level, and we have thousands of universities in the world, they have levels. Similarly, conference and journals have level as well. Now, IEEE has thousands of, 700 conferences or thousands, I think, per year. And IEEE, all the papers are going to the Scopus index, as I know. Conference papers, I'm saying. So, but in India or Bangladesh or in developing countries, we have many conferences which are done regularly, and very weak papers are accepted. So, I saw even a line follower robot with something, this kind of paper are also accepted or accepting even today, or maybe 4 pages or 5 pages survey paper on something with 10 references I found in papers. That doesn't mean that it all are bad, but I'm saying that they are quality, good or bad. So sometimes if I want to publish a paper in IEEE transaction PAMI, I need maybe 2, 3, 4 years to work on a single point, but that is topmost journal. But if someone wants to publish in poor cases or weak journals or weak conferences, it's not fake. I'm saying that the difference, weak versus rubbish, this is the difference. So still it is possible to publish more papers if one has lots of groups. So 50 is, to me, very difficult to think unless I have 50 researchers. But for me, I can say that, for example, last year, I have some researchers in Japan. I have some researchers in Bangladesh. And we are working and we are publishing some papers, some book chapters and so on. So, unless we have very big, so if someone can do it, we cannot complain them unless their work is complainable. like if they are cheating or something, only journals can judge, or some researchers can, judge them. But during COVID time, what I found that globally, some researchers, they communicated each other and helped each other. So if say you are with 5 research professors, and each one has say 5 students, and they are working together, not like, putting the name, if without monitoring, without guiding, without working hard, they just put a name, it's not proper at all. But if you have weekly meetings, and because of COVID, it becomes more common that every night you can have 1, 2, 3 research meetings with different groups. And it is possible. Some very few researchers can do that much hard work and forget about family. So you said about your family, and I have no family. So last 1 year I can do much better, but I didn't. But I helped many people, but I was not part of the research work. So that's why I'm saying that 50 or even 20 or 30 is unbelievable, extreme issue. But I don't complain them unless I know their work, that whether these are low quality or good. But if someone say that I have 10 papers in topmost conference on topmost journals, then it is amazing hard work, because in top places it's not easy to publish. But if you have 20 papers in very weak journals or very weak conferences, I don't care how you do that, because these are not so much important. So anyway, so this is just like my comment, but thank you so much. Mr. Indira, you had some question. You raised the hand before. Okay.
This is Abhijat Shukla. Sir, I would like to know about impact factor. Someone says that Thomson-Reuters impact factor is more valuable than JCC impact factor. So,
Okay. First of all, by impact factor, globally, as I know, it is considered that the impact factor of SCI, or Scientific Scientist Index, and or Thomson Reuters. Any other impact factor, I don't know whether it is. I cannot recall at this moment. So normally I consider that impact factor is only one, and which is by the SCI. That's why we always call SCI journal. So if you go to, for example, Malaysia for your PhD, or if you go to Korea, for example, they say that for PhD you need minimum 2 SCI journal. So SCI journal means the impact factor having some value points, and from the Thomson Reuters, not others. So I don't know, at this moment, any others. So I might miss something, yeah.
okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So any other questions? Otherwise, we can wrap up quickly. Someone asked me about the slides. So actually, these are available in my YouTube channel or my website. If you visit, then you can find, as you can see. So that's why, no need for slide. You can just see the slides in the video, so you can go through, hopefully. And okay, in India, I know that you have journals. One question is like this, that sir, please suggest some UGC recognized journal to get my research paper published, and can we publish a paper without any supervisor? So actually, in other countries, there is nothing called UGC recognized journal. I find some call for papers from Indian journals. It is written UGC recognized journal. So if it is, I think UGC means University Governing Council or something in your country.
No, sir, it's UGC means University Grant Commission.
Okay, same in Bangladesh. Okay, so University
Yes,
Grants Commission, you have recognized journals. So in my country, we don't have like this system. Okay, so if you have these kind of journals, and if you consider in India that UGC recognized journals are the minimum standard level journals you can sub-publish.
They have shortlisted some standard journals.
Excellent. If they do it, so definitely in India, it has recognition. But in other countries, we do not know, and outside, it will not be recognized. But I don't say, I shouldn't say not recognized, but they don't know. That's the point. But at least it is better than fake journals. So this is very good that UGC have some recognized journal in India. And it is good as well, because such a big country, so many universities and institutes. So there should have some, standard to maintain. The next point is that, can we publish a paper without any supervisor? I mentioned you can, of course, but why do you need to publish without a, first of all, don't worry about the publication. Why do you need to do a research without a supervisor? If there is no supervisor, you cannot uh, uh, get the guidelines, and you cannot understand that whether your work is going on properly or not. So that's why it's important that you need a supervisor or elders who can monitor you, guide you, and show you the path, just like our parents do in our life. Yes, when we become teenage, we forget about them and we see them that, oh, they are too much monitoring, but actually parents had their past like us, so they can, or elders can supervise us. So this is important, that we need supervisor in every stage of our life. Similarly, in terms of research, it is very important. Number one. Number two, supervisor may not be expert on your exact topic, because lots of new topics are coming. You are trying for a new topic. Maybe your supervisor has no idea about deep learning, but still he or she can help you to monitor the work, maybe not on deep learning, but on the process of research. So this is important. Number two is that if you work with someone like authorship, in one of my presentation, you will find that authorship is very important, that if you make 4 authors in the paper, then all of them somehow should be involved with your work, and somebody should not be kicked out from your work. Now, if there is a supervisor, officially it is understood that supervisor is the main person of the work and main responsible person of the work. So without his or her prior written approval, you should not submit a paper to anyone. So I hope that this is the point. Okay, I got another question from Intisar Kabir. He raised the hand several times, then he wrote, please tell us your opinion on this. I don't know, I can. Should a basic level of coding and mathematics be enforced in all departments in university? The answer is, of course, no. Because any kind of courses all over the world, they, never think to change anything suddenly, drastically, in education especially, without any profound study or purpose. So some people, for example, in my country, one minister once I heard, or something like that, he said that even in primary school, programming should be introduced. I mean, these kind of things are never done any parts of the world. And why to do that? Because nobody wants to be, why do my daughter, or a son should be a programmer, should know the programming? We need different type. Every knowledge is important. So that's why, coding is important if you need, but coding is not everything. Not everyone will be a coder. So that's why it is not possible. So, and don't think like that, okay? Maybe
Sir,
something, please.
sir, I didn't say coding. I said like basic level of mathematics, so that mathematics can be applied to day-to-day life. Mathematics is a tool to understand the universe. That is what I said. Like,
Okay.
suppose I have seen some research work in psychological sciences and other sciences which are not considered mainstream science, but if you look at present day trends in psychology and other areas, you will find machine learning, basic level of machine learning is being applied over there. So that, and we are lagging behind. And another thing is that our country have a lot of young generation, and their number is huge, and they are eager to learn. They are wanting to come into the new movement of this data driven era. So from that point of view, I told you,
Yes,
I
thank you.
asked for your opinion.
All right, thank you. So this is a very nice point, but again, I tell you that in school, we all study mathematics, basic mathematics, right? So If after learning the basic mathematics, if someone wants to learn further, then he will move to science area. And we know that like economics is not considered science in many countries, but still economics, they have a huge amount of mathematics. In business studies, there are lots of mathematics involved as well. And you mentioned psychology, like my work is on computer vision. And one of the work related to this is affective computing, like psychology from the face and body movements and others. So huge amount of mathematics are involved as well. But yes, it's right. I think there is another question. What is the minimum number of papers required to be accepted in journal by which an individual can be considered as a professional researcher? I mean, there is no number, and the quality is more important than quantity. This is very important. Okay, so again, I'm saying that quality is more important than quantity. So there is no minimum number of papers by which you can say that someone is very good or someone is bad. You will find IEEE fellow. You know that IEEE and IEEE fellow, because you are talking about science and engineering math. So IEEE, being an IEEE fellow is extremely, I mean, successful thing in life as a researcher, especially in computing and electrical and electronic engineers. Now, just think that, I mean, there are IEEE fellow having just 3,000 or 4,000 Google Scholar citations. And there are people, I mean, 30,000 Google Scholar citations is still not IEEE fellow. So it depends on, I mean, not the number, not the Google Scholar is not everything. Because some domain you can have lots of citations. I can have lots of citations if I publish some good survey papers, and maybe one survey paper has 5,000 citations and other papers maybe only 1,000. So do you think that of having 6,000 citations, I am a good one? Do you think that I have 160 papers, but if those are mostly on crap or average or poor journals or conferences are good? So, I mean, don't think like that. I mean, you just consider to do as much as you can. In different domain, it will vary. Some professors, they always go for high quality journals. Without that, they don't give anything. Excuse me. And there are some professors I found that they give PhD degree to their students without having any journals. And students are not happy, because when they return to Bangladesh or India, colleagues are saying that how many journals you had, and they say I have nothing. So what is the first impression? You consider that the guy did not do enough work. But basically it's the opposite thing, that the supervisor publishes only in top journals. So PhD students, he tried something, go home or go for another postdoc, but the supervisor will engage another student or another researcher to polish the work further. Maybe after 5 years, after 6 years, he will submit to Nature or another top journal. So I found some of them are like this. And at the same time, I found many, the number is more, that running for publications and publications, still it is good as long as you don't publish in crap journals. So, I mean, it's a very big world and very big world, but as long as we are honest and sincere and trying to develop, and basically in developing countries, we try to build our next generation to think, to learn, to develop themselves, so that through this process, I mean, we can develop the future. But unfortunately, many of our future are leaving the country, and they go for other countries and do much better there. And definitely this is wonderful. But we need to create environment which India has been doing much better than my country as a whole, I should say, that inviting foreigners to return to India with better salary, better environment, and so on, so that they can work and develop India as well, especially in science and engineering and other fields at the same time, because we cannot deny any other field. Science and engineering, this is my domain, but like if you consider economics, psychology, for example, you mentioned, and others, every domain, every topic is important as long as we think and try to develop. So that's the point. I think we have no more questions because I answered almost all. So may we finish, Dr.
Yes,
Ravinder.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation for giving webinar on this burning topic and useful topic. And I hope all the participants have already, we have seen there are so many responses in chat that the session is very good and useful also. So am thankful to you for giving such a useful and informative session. Uh, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation and helping us in conducting this webinar, sir. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best, and stay safe. And I hope that the young researchers who attended, especially, and young teachers, uh, these are few guidelines, but we need to work hard, because I personally feel that the doing research is basically help. I mean, we are trying to do something so that our next generation and our country people, our most of the people are poor, underdeveloped, and technologically unreached community. So if we develop ourselves and make brilliant researchers, then basically we are contributing and helping the poor people in our society, our farmers, our hardworking communities, step by step. And through this process, we can develop our community. And I hope that India, Bangladesh, we are neighbor. We need to have more collaborations, more support to each other, so that we can develop together. With that, I wish you all the best, and I hope that you enjoy the next two tests against England, and all the best. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much, Professor. With your permission, we will end this webinar, Professor.
See you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.